Welcome, everyone. And this is the UK Contributors Meeting on the 25th of February 2024. And we've got Brother Rick and Darren Sissons with us here. Possibly one or two others will come. So this is a UK Contributors call just to sort of, get a little bit of an update as how things are progressing all over the world with GPMS and some local sort of developments as well going on here. So I missed out on the European call earlier, so perhaps Brother Rick might sort of just give us a quick sort of a summary of some of the key things that came up. That'd be great. Over to you, brother.
Well, more so with the meetings, it's a little bit of collaboration and what have you. However, the highlight India, again, is expanding, if you will, going into 3 or 4 different other countries, Bangladesh, Pakistan. So that is firmly seated in there, and the roots are extending, which is very great, very rapidly, and also in the Philippines. So with the website, also what we were doing, what was brought up again in the future, we're anticipating putting the bios in there, perhaps a little video of the Guardians, and
Right.
of course, but coming, as Beatrice said, we come from our divine selves in any presentation in those little bios, if you will, is a great idea. And yes, we have to show that. Also, one of the things is with the laws in India, the topic come up again, but I'll keep it simple because it is generic. The existing legal, lawful structure worldwide is not lawful. It's immoral, it's corrupt as it is in all of its design, intents, and purposes. To keep it simple for anyone that may watch this, the whole way that money is created, but the system that also creates the division, the classes, and what this does, the poverty class, which inflicts harm. So because of this, all of their laws are actually negative laws. They'll say they're positive. They'll put, when you go and do a search, they call it positive law, but actually it's all negative law. It's immorally corrupt, if you will, or it's morally corrupt. But having said this, so with all the existing, what people think the legal, lawful system on the planet is actually a criminal system. And the reality of it, anyone supporting that, once they know that it's a criminal system, anyone still in that system and not taking any form of action to exit it, they're all actual accomplices of a huge crime that is inflicting harm upon humanity. So this is the bare truth of it. And GPMS, of course, do no harm. It is the most absolute law. And again, one of the reasons why none of the existing system can contest nor oppose the all-inclusivity and lawful structure of GPMS. So that is a given, but it needs to be quoted at times, to people. What are you doing? You've got to take action. How can you support a system that is killing 85 children, 8,500 children a day, 30,000, souls every day because of hunger? It's stupidity, and there's no substantiation, no justification, no reasoning why this is occurring. And ones need to know what they are actually an accomplice to. But nevertheless, we just mentioned that again, European meeting, seeing we had perhaps 36 participants, new ones from the India region coming in as it's expanding. Great news. Great news in Africa as well, with Uganda as a hub, same sort of a structure of the networking going out to different countries in Africa. So Yeah, if I think of anything else, I'll say it later.
Cool. Oh, no, no, great. I was just making a couple of notes down there because there was yeah some very interesting points. So one of the things that you were sharing there again about obviously the corruption of the legal system and obviously the government as a whole. Of course it is true, of course, worldwide. But very interestingly, I was just shared just yesterday following a meeting that I've had with a couple of individuals in the UK, which I met in person, and then we had another Zoom yesterday. A video of an ex-police officer that was contacting the HMRC, and he's basically refusing to pay his taxes, but he's uncovering, and on this recorded call, it's been documented, obviously, about how the whole tax system is completely corrupt, and that he's been able to identify that there's creation of accounts which have been which can be done selectively, so that there's again tax avoidance, but ultimately all of the tax is going into these companies that are on Companies House, and then it's obviously just going into the pockets of the wealthy people ultimately, and so the tax money is not going to what people think it's going to. Of course, the purpose really for he's speaking to just one of the minions within the tax office. So she's obviously going to forward this on to her managers, this complaint, albeit a bit more than that. But essentially, it was the purpose of recording it because he's got all of the documentation and everything to support this. Very, very powerful. That's now going to be circulating around as well. I don't know if you'd be interested, either of you, in hearing this, because there's no doubt. I mean, I shared it with a couple of people already who, are quite skeptical of certain things, but they were like, well, he definitely sounds like a police officer and he definitely sounds like he's telling the truth. So it's one of these things I think is going to be quite important for people to hear and open up their consciousness a bit with. So that was powerful. And yeah, great to see the numbers growing worldwide. Africa and India and the Philippines have had some good connections and very good responses, reactions so far. I think out of about 5 or 6 orphanages that I actually had connected with previously that I hadn't really done much with before, but sent them this voice message, just 6 minutes long, just sort of giving a general summary with the view that they'd be able to share it out. But it was actually following the initial message that I actually had mentioned before in a previous meeting, where I was kind of explaining that this is what's occurring and it's delivered by God and it's divine and it's ordained that this is going to occur. And of course, with that, we are working towards ending the neediness for everyone worldwide. That this is a reason as well that we can't obviously support in the meantime financially, to any one organization. It's just not possible. So, and that response that I've had from 6 that I've sent out, I think I had, at least 4 respond, accepting what I was saying that everything I said made sense and that they would obviously get the orphans to agree and, or have them sort of, added to the system and what have you. And I've got a couple of very, very good, beautiful, divine souls that certainly the energy, the frequency I'm reading from them is genuine 100%. So it's a very great sort of micro look at what will potentially occur on the macro if we start duplicating this. And I think Darren's already been sharing the same message with a few of those other ones out there as well. So we'll see what happens with that. But that was great. Over to you again, brothers. You got your hand up?
Yeah, thank you, Dan. And I'm so grateful, brother, for you writing that the other day, the script to give to the orphanages, because I get so many and I don't have, and what was funny, the night before, I was going to take the time to write up a script, but then I come and look at the contributors channel and here's Dan already got it done. I said, thank you, brother. So I just copied it and I'm using that as well. But also in our contributors meeting earlier today, we have about 450 contributors. I have put a couple requests in there, over the last week or two. One most recent one is for some to come in from the contributors group to assist us with the administration of this networking in Africa. Because again, like you, brother, you see the messages you receive, I receive, and what we're seeing, with Wanderer, he's been doing most of it, but we now have Joshua from there, and we had North American contributors meeting last night on Saturday. Um, and what we brought in there was Derek from Uganda that's now coming in with orphanage like with GPMS. But what we're seeing is we need some, I know we need some more assistance with the administration of looking at this, because you look at, I'm not sure how many countries in Africa, but I think 49 or whatever, but it doesn't matter. What we're looking at is a huge number that will be coming into GPMS, and we need some others to educate and assist somehow with it. So I put the request in the other meeting and in this one. If we have any with administrative skills that are not already doing things, if they're looking for something to do and they're in the contributors group to assist, well, with some of this administration and guidance and getting everything structured and connected, at least with the network in Africa, would be very beneficial. Also, the short video clips of our contributors meetings and all of our meetings. Mariana put in the contributors group the access link on our YouTube channel where to access the short clips. They are in a playlist. So, 2 or 3 minute long clips, because the attention span, and as you know very well with marketing and promotion, that you got to capture, their attention very in the first few seconds, 3 seconds, I guess, actually. So, what I suggested is in the text of these short clips to say, here is a 3 minute long clip, a 2 minute long clip. And, when you say that, then they're more apt to actually open the link and say, oh, okay, it's only 2 minutes, right? And they'll look at it. So I suggested that, and these clips are invaluable, and suggest a flurry campaign with a lot of those when we get more volunteers. But what I'm seeing yet in the contributors group, there's not, perhaps everyone is busy doing what we told them to do, but I feel there's ones that have no direction that are there that can be doing something. So.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks, brother. So yeah, Darren, just obviously at any point, if you've got anything to add, just feel free just to raise your hand, because there's only 3 of us here, so I can see you do that, or we'll do it on the icon. Just let that flow whenever you want. And
yeah, whenever you're free. Yeah.
No, have you got something to add to that? You want to?
Yeah, I'd like to respond. Yeah, to what you've both just said.
Fantastic.
It's a pleasure, Brother Rick, to be speaking with you today. I've been following you intently on Facebook, and your posts are very inspiring, and the enlightenment is just, well, it's just incredible. And I'm very, very grateful, very thankful, and that, just have this meeting and be part of it is very exciting for me. And I'm taking a lot of inspiration from yourself, Rick, and a lot from Donovan. Donovan's, this particular week, since you started putting them scripts together, it did really inspire me. And I've actually made quite a lot of contact with people in Uganda recently. And I've just had a telephone call with a gentleman called Musika, a brother called Musika, who's just started working in an orphanage in Uganda. So he's looking for a lot of support, a lot of guidance, and I seem to have a bit of a connection with a lot of the people. I seem to just click very easily with them in Uganda. It seems an easy conversation I'm having with them, and I feel I can be of assistance with them. Touching on what you said, Rick, about the networking and just getting things moving over there. A lot of them are lacking inspiration and vision of what can be achieved. I can clearly see where we're heading with it, and I do have a natural ability to get people excited about what's coming in the future. And if I can help them I'm more than happy to do that. And yeah, like you've both been saying, you know, the system is so corrupt, and while ever we can keep putting the message out of the new earth being, you know, a utopia, and it's there to create a society where everybody's taken care of, I'm all for it. I've always been for it from the beginning, and unfortunately a lot of my time has been restrained, so now my time is getting freed up. I do want to be more involved, and yeah, there's so much need out there, and the UK needs help. I know that for sure. I mean, in my day-to-day life, I'm speaking to my customers, and I'm having very interesting conversations with people on a day-to-day basis. So I know there's a lot of work to do in the UK. However, I connect with these people in Uganda, and my heart just opens up, because they're just so grateful. They're just so grateful, and it makes my heart open up even more, because I feel like I want to do what I can to assist them. And I've had a lot of dealings with, obviously, Wanderer, and Wanderer's been an absolute inspiration. And I get the feeling that he's got a lot on his plate now, a lot on his shoulders. I was speaking to him yesterday, and he definitely needs more support, I think, for sure, and more communication between Wanderer and just trying to recreate what he's achieved in all these other orphanages, because he's shown to Uganda now that the impossible can be achieved when you put yourself out there with the right image. So I'm excited to see how Uganda evolves. I really am, for sure.
Oh, that's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful, brother, and you're absolutely right. It's, you know, really does sort of allow people to sort of access the, you know, that sort of real truth of the degree in which GPMS is required, you know, by everyone worldwide, you know, because you're seeing, you know, the extreme things there. But just to see that, again, that the material is really not where fulfillment is found, as of course those with very humble sort of existence and limited sort of stuff that they have and what have you, very grateful and beautiful souls, you know. So yeah, Wanderer's had some great things occurring now. You know, he's been able to obviously get some support which he needed for a plan that it was going to help him and the orphanage really actually become more sustainable, so they're not having to ask for donations, which is very exciting. But of course he's trying to juggle everything else, and I have been also connecting, or suggested that the, you know, orphanages I'm in touch with, you know, connect with Wanderer, of which a couple have. I think one orphanage at least has said to me that they're not near Ginger, they're quite far away, but they're in Uganda, but they're in Iganja, I think, or something like that, which is not that close. Obviously it's going to be quite key as well that, you know, because Wanderer's able, where you can get to them if they're quite close by, to actually be able to sort of just go and check them out to see if they're genuine and they're not like the, you know, some out there which are unfortunately scammers. But yeah, just to mention one of the points you touched, one of the points you mentioned, Rick, brother, the sort of capturing people's attention within the first few minutes is absolutely key with any kind of marketing. I was just thinking actually earlier, and I forgot to do it on this one, but actually even I think opening up these meetings every time, just to quickly mention, with it being a GPMS.well contributors meeting, that we are working towards this divine plan, which is to end taxes, end debt permanently, to end the enslavement of long work hours for every single human being upon the planet, through essentially just coming together as one to focus on humanitarian projects and projects that clean up the planet, so we can phase out the waste, wasteful companies, etc., and free up people's time, so that they can have an abundant experience. So just an intro to give a bit more of a capturing you know, statement for those that might just be tuning into the videos. You know, if it's a minute, sums it up. It's all good. But yeah, it's great to see Darren. You know how Darren's come on, you know, since we connected. It must be, I don't know, maybe a year ago now or something like that. First, I can't remember exactly when it was, but
yeah,
yeah, it's great. I mean, and you know, we learn from each other constantly. And as per one of the posts I put out recently, we're all doors, we're all portals, you know, to learning more about ourselves, and then with that, you know, learning about everyone else, you know, because it's true that we're all the same at heart, you know. So yeah, there's some other things that I'll bring up as well, but over to you first, brother, if you want to add something that you thought was specific. You had your hand up there.
Yeah, I'd like to just add first, my gratitude for you, Donovan, because you did the groundwork, took the time with Wandera in Uganda to get GPMS started there and grounded. So I attribute the founder to that aspect to you, and I'm so grateful. Now, just to add, like with Africa, what we will see in the near future, no linear time frame put on it other than the near future. We will see a Africa contributors GPMS meeting. So what Renata, Sister Renata in GPMS, and I will be doing in the near future, Jubani from Uganda. We are going to be having a meeting with him as well, an individual one, and to record it so that he has something substantial to show the people. So, but not only Jubani, there will be others in Africa and different countries that I anticipate the same will occur. And then to bring all of the African brothers and sisters together to form the panel there. And then they are the peers for all of Africa will be set up. So this is part of the architecture that is being constructed now with GPMS there in Africa. Also, everyone needs to realize, we do, of course, but just to share where you're recording this, that all of Africa has been oppressed, suppressed, and enslaved, pushed right down to the very bottom. They've seen it all, they experienced it all, and they are at that point of surrender that also they can see very simply the simplicity of GPMS. So they're more apt to get it rather than, let's say, the US or Europe or Canada, because of that huge conditioning. But also, what is great is the great numbers that come from Africa. Like, there'll be a 1.3 or 4 billion there, which is huge. And, when we say what I've said before, the 1.7 billion is such an important number as well. And we'll achieve that, I anticipate, quickly. But once you hit that, it's just from 0 to 60 is what's going to occur with this. But 1.7 billion, then you have outpopulated the biggest nation upon the planet, which now is India. And this is very important. As a universal nation, once we have the population, if you will, within GPMS, you are actually at that time the world's greatest power, if you will, and where we're fully endowed with the moral laws and all of this, it goes very quickly. So having said this, coming back to Africa, with the huge numbers of a population of perhaps 1.3 billion, and also India, you can see very quickly how this number of 1.7 billion can be achieved. And you can imagine if all of Africa, but not only all of Africa, one individual country, which is going to be interesting. Once we have the majority consent within an individual country, what it actually does is put full pressure onto the country's central bank. Now, this is very important at that point, because it also forces the government and the central bank to take whatever action. And I won't go into much detail with this, but I know both of you are thinking about, how beautiful this will be, and do your own presentation of the effects, that it could have.
100%.
What is just. So I soon need to go. So with Africa, that's growing, to let you know about that. But at this point, yeah, I think I'm going to go because I got to relocate the computer, and I got another important meeting coming up with 2 representatives that are in the art of living that is worldwide. And I think they're in every country, or 140, and they are. We already spoke with them, Fem and I, but there's so much to talk about. So
100%.
I'll
Oh,
be
that's
speaking.
perfect. Beautiful. Well, thank you so
Great,
much
Nick.
for coming along and joining today, brother. And great to hear what you share. And yeah, we'll continue, obviously, Darren and I, just for a bit longer to share a bit more. And wish you can watch the playback, because there's a couple of interesting things that I'm going to be sharing on that one, which I'm hopeful about. But again, I had wondered whether or not I might share it, because until it's actually formally booked and occurring, like, you know, we never know whether it happens or not. But you know, it's certainly in the making, and it sounds very promising as well. So thank you for joining us, and yeah, look forward to catching up with you soon, brother, next week.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Darren and Dan. And yes, we'll connect sometime in the future, Darren, when we have
Thanks, Rick.
time. Love, light, and gratitude, and we'll see you soon. Thank
Thanks,
you.
brother.
Bye
Thanks.
now.
Thanks,
You're
Rick.
welcome.
Cheers.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.
Awesome. So yeah, great to have brother Rick come on, and with these calls that we're doing, this is a weekly meeting that we're doing, obviously, for the UK, but of course Rick's been on another meeting earlier on for a couple of hours, probably, or an hour and a half at least, with which was the main European meeting, with people actually from not just Europe, but you know, often the Philippines dial in and India dial in, and lots of participants there. It's quite a big meeting, that one, usually. So yeah, it's great for the audience to know that these meetings are going on constantly, and you can follow all of this on YouTube, as you probably found this link to the YouTube channel as well. And we ask that you do tune in, you follow wherever you are in terms of your consideration process with GPMS and this amazing thing that we're obviously delivering to humanity to uplift everyone. But yeah, just to sort of continue on a little bit more. So yeah, what we were talking about. So yeah, just obviously with Africa, I mean, interestingly, one of the ones that I connected with there left a couple of messages, and he's very grateful of our connection again, because it's now giving them a light at the end of the tunnel, you know, because they're really struggling day to day, hand to mouth, you know, trying to feed the children and what have you, and get the things they need, you know, shelter, and maintaining the shelter, maintaining healthcare and stuff. But you know, one of the things that he obviously expressed was obviously the challenge that in Africa you think, well, you know, GPMS, you know, delivering in our plan, delivering, you know, unlimited equal abundance to every single soul upon the planet, you know, where it's unbelievable, you know, the experience we can have, because we have a truly free world where you can travel literally across the whole planet, you know, pretty much, not whenever you like, because you know, that would be potentially a bit chaotic. Not that everybody would go to the same place at the same time, but of course it's just, you know, in order for everybody to receive what needs to be received, essentially, with all of the distribution and delivery and the farming, there's obviously contributions that the people make to assure that happens, whether they're doing it within a technology development capacity, or whether they're doing it from a labour perspective, you know, assisting with farming food, etc., and all that sort of stuff, which of course people contribute to do, but it's a fraction of ours, but they can do it anywhere. That's the beautiful thing. So as we transform the planet, which will happen very rapidly, because GPMS will be ultimately transferring all of the resources upon the planet by the majority vote. So it's supported by the people, it's democratically done. That's why there's no opposition, because it does allow us to bring harmony and balance to the planet and to the people's lives, you know, uplifting everyone, because we can have this free experience and abundant experience for free, every one of us. But people will contribute just a fraction of hours for what's essential, and any extra time they spend, more than say 40 hours a month, is because they're passionate about it, they're self-developing themselves, they're just gaining more skills, and those are often going to be amazing contributions that come as a result of just doing what they're passionate about, and they choose to do that's what they enjoy, so not an issue. But of course there is obviously this template, or this concept in terms of what we have with this evolving plan, which is that people will work maybe 40 hours a month on what's essential. That's a fraction of what most work now. And then of course they'll be able to do that though wherever they want, and there's going to be huge developments very rapidly, transformations upon the planet of new infrastructure, long-lasting infrastructure, you could say we could have the pavements, the roads paved with gold, because we're not going to be basically limiting what can be created unlimitedly when we've actually got access to all of the monetary system. We've created money as the banks do infinitely. We're not doing it with limitation, without conflicts of interest, and without competition from one country to another, between one individual and another. That no longer exists. Of course, very quickly people realise that we don't need money, so I'll contribute my few hours for this free world, because what do I spend my money on when everything's free? But we have it in the plan so people can transition from what we've known, because we've always had money, and we'll see what the people really want at that point. Maybe we'll in phase 3 of distribution of funds, it will already be regarded as not necessary, because everyone gets what they need for free, and then they're seeing that they're going to be able to experience the world. But this plan is evolving, and so we'll see what happens with that. But it's you think that the Africa and India, the people there, of course, feeling the financial struggle and pain and suffering that they do, that they would be obviously just agreeing to this drop of a hat, which they have no problem with agreeing with the principle of GPMS and what it will deliver. It's just their mindset and lack of self-belief and lack of trust. So this one in Africa that I was speaking to in Uganda, who's expressing that some of the people speaking to, they just don't trust. Some of them are lacking trust. Because they think, well, how can you be bringing something or talking to me about something that's going to be so transformative? And that's obviously absolutely the same with many people across the world in different countries, is the lack of self-worth, because we've never had this kind of reality. So we've been conditioned and programmed to believe or not believe that it's possible to have ultimately. But that is just mindset, and it is programming and conditioning. Okay, so we just focus, and as I said to this one, as I said, but we just focus on those that are ready to receive it. And you just basically, there's so many people to reach with this, and the more that we reach that receive it and embody it and do it, they add to the numbers, and they speak to people, and we come together physically in gatherings, and that obviously then highlights it is really occurring, and then the others follow because they see it with their own eyes. Seeing is believing in that sense. For those that lack trust, and then of course the ones that are bad people, let's just say, we don't need to worry about them, because the miracles are going to be occurring as we're removing the stress, and we're actually essentially giving everyone a second chance of forgiveness, ultimately, because they've been born into an environment that actually has made it very easy for them to go off the right path ultimately. So this is it. I mean, we're seeing the numbers grow now. More and more people are joining us, and this is where we're just at that point where it's going to go viral very, very soon. So, I don't know if you wanted to add something. I'm going to go into a few other things in a minute.
Like just touching on what you said there. Then, it is a situation where many of us, and for me personally, for a long time, that when you mention worthiness, I've even thought to myself throughout my life, can I achieve heights that I see other people achieving? There's been a limiting belief within myself for a long, long time, and the whole planet is trapped within limiting belief, and it's just getting people to believe that there is a much brighter future, and a place where everybody's taken care of, everybody's worthy, and just embracing them in that thought process, and just enabling them to think differently from a different space, and understand that this future we've got ahead of us isn't going to come via mainstream media. It's not going to come via any of the normal outlets that we've been used to hearing it from. It's going to come from the common people, and they're united in one place, and just pushing that belief forward. And the amount of people I'm coming in contact with, seeing what's happening now in the media, certainly in the UK, with all this noise about war, and the government just being in just chaos at the moment. you know, a lot of people are starting to seriously think about the future, whereas before they weren't quite open to have that conversation. And I've had a couple of very interesting conversations with people recently, and I've said to them, look, you know, we're literally at a crossroads here. You know, we can either continue accepting people that have lied to us and then putting up with that narrative and continue down a very, very dark road, or you can take the opposite direction and say, no, I don't want to see my children in the future wearing VR headsets and being linked to any artificial intelligence, telling them how to think, them what to believe, and how to live their lives. I want to live an organic reality where my children are free to grow up thinking and believing what they want to, listening to their own inner guidance, and caring for the planet, caring for the people, the community, and everybody around them, and building what should be heaven on earth in their communities, which will then obviously continue throughout the world and transform the whole world how we need it to transform. And just thinking about it and thinking, well, yeah, no, that's not the avenue I want to go down. The penny does drop, and people do sit back and think, yeah, you've got a point. And like all the work you've done yourself, Donovan, it's absolutely incredible. And just getting your profile and your name out there and giving people a beacon to follow and a point of contact, you know, you've inspired me tremendously, and that's why I'm on board, because I don't see another road apart from the yellow brick road that we're going to, which has got the, you know, heaven on earth that I believe we all deserve at the end of it. And we just need everybody else to start tuning into this love frequency that we're all now picking up on, because the energies are rising. I've felt a shift within me in this last week. Every time we get an influx of energy on the planet, it changes my level of consciousness, and I'm definitely at a higher place than what I was last week, the week before, and the week before that. So anybody wondering where we're heading, it's not what's happening outside of you, it's what's happening inside of you, and tuning into that and understanding that that's the information that you're getting from above that's telling you that there is a better world. And the more we listen to this inner guidance, the better we're going to be, and the quicker we're going to get to this utopia that we desperately deserve. And speaking to a lot of the people in Uganda recently, my heart goes out to them in such a big and proper way, because they desperately want this. They really want it. And one of the brothers out there has said, look, you must come over to Uganda. And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to. Please come over to Uganda. Please come now. He's saying to me. I'd love to, but we've got work to do before we can get to that place. But I'm sure it's going to happen where we can all start traveling a bit more freely and really start seeing these communities evolve and start to grow. And yeah, any assistance I can do on that front, then, you know, I'm happy to get involved. I put a little video. I felt like I needed to put a little celebration video together for Wanderer, because of the amazing work he's done. And I was out working yesterday, and I thought, you know what, let's just pull some of these pictures together. And I asked his permission. He says, wonderful. And then I've contacted quite a few of the others as well, and I've asked them to see if I can share some of their photos and any information that they want sharing. So I'm going to start pulling more information, videos and pictures together, because I'd like to share some more videos just to raise their profile and raise the awareness for people, for Uganda. And the more we can pull into one place, into a conversation, more and more within Uganda are going to take note, and they're going to realise that's the yellow brick road that they need to be following to get to their destination as well. So if I can be part of that, I'll be a very proud man. If I can help that build and grow and evolve, then I'm happy to help them.
You already are, brother. You already are. doing amazing work. And yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate everything that you're doing. It's absolutely great.
Welcome.
You know, it's yeah, interesting because yeah, there's a lot of ego that obviously is being released at this time for a lot of people, and there's a lot of people that are full of ego that won't necessarily release it until something drastic happens that kind of forces a release of ego. But yeah, 100%. I had a great conversation with, very interesting conversation with the 23-year-old who cut my hair yesterday, because obviously I again sort of just started asking him what he would like to do, if he was planning on wanting to be a barber, if that was his passion. Have his, like, I mean, he was already barbering, obviously cutting my hair, but does he want to have his own kind of barber shop, that sort of thing, and does he want to travel and all that sort of thing? And of course, then I introduced GPMS to him, because I said, it must be really difficult to navigate through this time, at your age, in your generation, not really sort of seeing where the world is going and being able to plan and all that sort of stuff. And he said, yeah, to be honest, it's a nightmare. I didn't use that word specifically, but he said it's horrible. But in terms of talking to him about GPMS, again, he loved the idea. He said, "Oh, it's a great idea," but again, immediately the kind of conditioned and limited mindset and sense of belief that this would be possible was kicking in. And he had some very good questions and points that he brought up, as everyone does, of course, which I was able to give good answers to, because we've been planning this and talking about this for a long, long time. And before GPMS even came about, it was written about by many other people, this kind of reality that we're talking about. So it's the spark of the imagination that creates everything, every single thing, right? So anyway, I responded to this guy, and I was explaining to him, like, if you want to have like fancy cars, you like driving, the idea of driving supercars. I mean, imagine a world where you can drive whatever car you want, and it's not limited. And the only difference is that you're sharing that joy with everyone else that can also have that privilege, because we're all receiving it equally. And you can travel across the world and do whatever you want worldwide, and you don't have to work for it. And so I was painting this picture for him, but he said he was very open about, which is very full of ego, and again, the perception and the programming and conditioning people have had to almost feel like we want to be competitive from a point of view of not competing, say, in sport. Competition's great when it comes to fun and games and sports and all that sort of stuff, and not when it gets nasty, and not when it costs the lives of thousands or millions of people because of competition between countries and distribution of resources. That food is lacking, for anyone. That's not right. But he expressed how, well, if everyone's got a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or able to drive them, then it kind of takes the fun out of it, because you haven't got something that makes you kind of special. And I had to explain to him, well, that's coming from a sense of not being good enough, which is why you're feeling that way, or why you think that way. And we're all programmed and conditioned to feel that we need to, that we want to have something that makes us shine, because we're not feeling or being led to feel like we shine enough as our unique divine self that we are, which is absolutely not true, Understandable why people have that perception, completely, totally, 100%. But it is a program that obviously is needing to be released, because it's not serving them, it's not serving everyone. And to think that basically you'll find happiness with wealth and having wealth to yourself, at the cost of other people coming to harm, and the cost of everything else that you have to let go. You have to basically be compromised so that you can have that wealth, whether it's like you're letting your relationships down because you're not there, and you're going out and having these times out, which is basically again affecting your relationship in other way. That's where people who have a lot of money are deeply depressed. They're not finding the fulfillment. You have moments of fun, of course they do, work hard, play hard kind of ethos. But it was interesting, we're having this conversation. There's a real consciousness shift for this young lad, and he kept on coming up with a few different things and trying to get his head around it. I could see it as, again, and he was, again, when I was giving him the responses, he was taking it in, albeit that it was like forcing him to have to look at himself. He said to me, I feel bad, saying these things about, but this is how I kind of, because, this is like, wanting girls, and your girls, it's obviously human nature, especially for young lads, it's the peacocking thing, I've got this and that's going to attract more attention, and therefore I've got more chance of getting the ladies. But that's very superficial and surface based. And it's because, again, we're not, receiving enough love and compassion and appreciation for who we really are at heart, you know. And if you provide that to everyone, which we're doing with GPMS ultimately, then the superficial stuff becomes not important at all. And really, you know, what the guy hasn't experienced yet is real true love. Because when anybody experiences real true love, then they'll know that everything else doesn't matter. You know, when you think you're going to lose that love of your life, you know, for example, nothing else matters. So very powerful conversation, very, very interesting. And yeah, of course, it speaks to obviously the way that people are thinking about many of these things when it comes up with GPMS and what we're talking about and creating this world that we're creating together. You know, for a lot of people, there's things that they need to just kind of reflect on and just look at again in themselves. Why is it? Are they thinking that way? What's causing them? What's the deeper thing going on there, really? And then face it and then know that you can actually become such a better individual and actually see the joy of an appreciation of everyone being abundant and having just the unlimited experiences upon the planet that you can't possibly experience for yourself, even if you had all of the time in the world. You're not going to be able to experience everything. So it's now bringing the connection of people back together, because people are going to value the connection and the communication they're having, which is much deeper than these kind of little like small conversations, you know, how's the weather and all the rest of it, all the weather's crap. You know, because you're interested now in, well, what were you doing last week? Where did you go? And what kind of contribution were you making? Wow, and that sounds really cool. Maybe I'll do that myself sometime, because I can choose to do that now, you know. And but there's too many things that you can do to contribute in this world, and too many places that you can go that you won't see all of them, even with all of the time in the world. So there should be no question or doubt that people are going to experience a world that's just beyond the imagination in terms of fulfilling. Way beyond anything in terms of just having something that other people don't, and that being, you know, your stimulus, right? So yeah, that's there were some other things that probably were in that conversation which were good, but I won't sort of hang on to that one. So yeah, again, well, I had this great conversation, obviously. Oh yeah, very exciting thing. I don't know if you know Richard Vobes. Have you come across Richard Vobes? He's a podcaster on YouTube. He does interviews, but he does also like do monologues and stuff. He's a bald guy, he's got glasses, he's not got a huge following, but maybe about 250,000 subscribers. So that is huge actually, but you know, not like, you know, the biggest, but you know, he's got a very good following. He's doing amazing work. He's been interviewing some very powerful key people. With a decent, I think a large portion of his audience will be British. And I reached out to him a couple of times, and actually it was divine that I kind of stumbled across one of his recent ones where he's kind of sort of saying that I'm going to be stopping doing interviews, you know, fairly soon, because he's very conscious about what's going on in terms of the farming issue, and he's looking to get back out, go off grid himself, basically. So I reached out to him. I said, look, let us be your final interview. It's really important that your audience sees what GPMS is and have the opportunity to choose it, you know, because obviously of what we're doing. And I gave him a bit of info, a bit of substance to the email, and he responded and said, look, you know, I am going to be doing the odd interview here and there, but yeah, I'd like to do one with you, and contact me again in the beginning of March, because I've got a few things I need to sort out. And so I'm hopeful that we're going to have an opportunity to do an interview with Richard. And he's, like I say, amazing. He's interviewed some very interesting people who've been across the board in different things, but he's been going through an experience himself. It's been a big shift for him already. So yeah, that's exciting. Wasn't sure whether to mention it, because until it happens, you don't know whether it does or not, you know, but I am feeling very confident that's going to occur. And I said to him, it is literally pivotal. You know, it's a pivotal moment for that interview to take place, and you don't realize how important you are, you know, anyway, with what you've already done, you know, but in terms of what you could do with this, it's phenomenal. Because just for anyone watching this, right, what can you do that's so powerful? Why are you so important? Why are you the main character in this movie and in being the center of the universe? Is that you may give your agreement, and that in itself is contributing to this reality. Just the fact that you've done it is a major contribution. But sharing it to a few other people, and we've got a way to do that now, where you can share a voice message which, you know, produced, and you can do one yourself, but you know, you can share that on to everyone. Sums up GPMS in a few minutes and with some information. That is how that can go viral, and that sharing of just to a few people or enough people for a few people to do the same could end up reaching hundreds of thousands, and then obviously helping us get to the majority people that we need to get to sooner, saving thousands of lives, hundreds of thousands of lives, maybe millions of lives. Everyone at this point that is doing that is having such a profound effect on the future for people that it's difficult to describe. So it's so important that people realise how important they actually are now with this. Because this is empowering everyone to realise that you really are that important, and it's not a joke, and it's not just us saying it. This is what is occurring. How quickly it occurs boils down to how much people embrace it, embody it, and don't potentially hesitate. So I don't know if you wanted to add anything there, brother, but I've got a couple of other things to say otherwise.
You're absolutely right. Connecting with people that have got an audience already is vital at the moment. And yeah, if you can get an interview with him, that would be wonderful. That really would. Because like you say, it only takes someone like him coming from his perspective. It will just open up way more many people in a much quicker, bigger way. And yeah, totally agree. And like you're saying about the chat, earlier, I see loads of examples of people that, again, believe that fulfillment lies from a selfish point of view, just getting what they want out of life and just getting there quicker, like we've always been taught, through competition and greed and I'm better than you. It's an outlook that's no longer going to be in the future. So and just letting go of judgment and just making forgiveness with everybody in your past, just forgiving everything and looking at everything in the world from a non-judgmental point of view, for me was the biggest turning point for me to start speaking to people in a completely different way. And people will in time, they are, without a doubt, with everything that's going on, I think they'll naturally align. And yeah, I'm just very excited to see what unravels. In terms, just if I can just go back to what we were on about with the brothers in Uganda. I've got contact now with about half a dozen of them there. Wanderer has done an incredible job with his orphanage. Is it worth, maybe not on this video, but us getting together on a one-on-one and just try and maybe with Wanderer, so the three of us come together and just try and put a plan in place to try and almost like a blueprint for other orphanages to follow? Do you think that's something that is worthwhile doing?
I think it is, because it's divinely lined up with, again, a thought process that I was having earlier this week. In fact, I was just exchanging a couple of messages with Wanderer yesterday, and I said, look, we should have a call and a catch up, next week. But yeah, a couple of one particular orphanage that I've shared a few messages with that I was touching on earlier. I was saying to him that that again, you should connect with Wanderer if possible, but he was a bit too far. But I said, again, I was giving him some guidance as to what has worked very, very well for Wanderer, and I suggested that he would actually provide some photos like Wanderer did of the orphans that he's added their consents of within the orphanage, saying we want GPMS. I've shared the examples of what Wanderer did, because that was the beginning, that was the start, and that kind of content again, and showing other orphanages, doing that is obviously going to support the other ones then following and doing the same thing. But of course, again, at the same time, I'm giving guidance, and this is where when we're connecting with people obviously around the world, the guidance that we're able to give and share, from our kind of just all of us are learning so much and have learned so much over the last few years. Some more years that they've been kind of exploring different things, right? That we can impart and lift up people with such powerful information that can make such a big difference. So, of course, knowing the problem with clean water being an issue with orphanages, and I think one of I was speaking to was saying that there's a challenge with that, and of course trying to assure that they prevent any unnecessary disease upon the children where possible by boiling the water and filtering it, and getting appealing to anyone who may be with a level of comfort where you can contribute, and finding a number of people that can make enough small contributions to be able to get wells, water wells potentially set up in the meantime, will again save a lot of life ultimately for these poor people, that don't have access to it. Because of course I helped, before in the past, when I was able to, a couple of the children that got sick, from malaria and typhoid, and the typhoid from the water supply, which was not clean. And again, they have to be on top of boiling it, but it's just difficult when they're balancing everything, trying to source food and trying to then source, clothing and, educational, scholastic materials for the kids to go to school, and obviously again maintaining the rent if they've got, they've got a shelter. Obviously they're having to pay rent still, and all the rest of it. It all is a major strain on these poor individuals and these beautiful souls that are actually taking it upon themselves to try and look after these children, albeit that they're not financially comfortable to do that, themselves, but because they've experienced that life themselves, they're paying it forward, because they were given the support and love and care that kept them going and saving them when they were in that same situation. This is what people need to understand, is that if you were in their shoes, you would want everyone to basically just agree to GPMS within a drop of a hat, because it would take all of that pain and suffering and risk away from everyone, and just it's so important. And as we bring GPMS in more quickly, and it's starting to really manifest, it's starting to be created as we go forward, then of course small contributions make all of the difference. And of course it's just wonderful that we've seen Wanderer being able to achieve what he's achieved so far, with actually making some real moves now to become self-sufficient, so it doesn't have to source donations from outside. They can actually fund it through their own project. And this is what we want to help with the other orphanages. But again, it requires assistance, because again, there's not enough people locally in their own country that can assist in any way, shape or form, certainly to a degree where they can actually become self-sufficient. The governments aren't assisting, they're in a desperate situation, but by them becoming self-sufficient and working together or collaborating together, it enables them to extend and pay forward some of what they are able to have an excess of, if it's like hens' eggs, for example, because their project is to, farm hens and have food. That you just understand the power of that in terms of what it's going to do for more and more. So we don't need to hold on to, oh, right, this is mine and I need to basically look after what I've got in terms of assets and all the rest of it for the long term, because I see the economy is dodgy, because the economy is dodgy. But we're going to be able to bring GPMS in rapidly, so that you don't need to worry about the economy. You don't need to worry about what you've got now, because you're going to have so much more and it's all going to be freed up. But what you do now and what you're able to do now is going to have such a profound impact on the GPMS delivery and the message to everyone else, especially because we can document every bit of assistance that's happening and what we're doing with these orphanages. It lends itself to everyone seeing GPMS as being this, beautiful organisation that's not only delivering this humanity for the long term and rapidly to save life, but also because it's actually enabling assistance to those that really desperately need it in the meantime, by us just coming together and helping, where we can. So beautiful, and definitely I would agree 100%. If we can have a call with Wanderer, we can have a chat and sort of see that, because we can have a look at some of the things that we did in the beginning, and I know there's a number of things that we did. I did spend a lot of time with Wanderer in the beginning, because at that time, of course, it was my first experience, of dealing with an orphanage. Of course, Wanderer was, seeking assistance financially, as they all are. Initially upon reaching out to me, that was their point of contact. As lovely as they are, that they're thinking of what their needs are, which is natural. And of course, I was talking to him about GPMS, and I was, giving him some light at the end of the tunnel. But again, at the beginning, he didn't really see it, because it's a longer term view, and he's thinking about his short term needs. But he was probably humouring me to a degree, which is understandable because he was thinking, well, maybe you sound like a really nice guy. Maybe if I chat to you for a bit, then you might be able to help. And he was interested in what we were sharing. I wasn't just talking about GP, I was talking about all kinds of stuff to do with, vitamin D and meditation and, CBD and things that are going on around the world to do with the economy and, all of the kind of misinformation, disinformation, all that sort of stuff. And that, resonated with him and he was interested. And again, it was nice for him to connect with someone outside of Africa still as well. And on that level, he was talking to them at face value and not just about their situation and all the rest of it, but really building a friendship. And with that, he's then become obviously a major ambassador, a major guardian for GPMS and done amazing work. And that's, so there is a level of time that if invested as well into the individuals where we connect with them, it will make all of the difference. But again, it's about finding the time. That's why, again, more people joining us and helping us with that aspect, will again be really significantly helping. So again, like there'll be a lot more to help us with that. Because again, Darren, you're wanting to do more, but again, it's still time limited to a degree. Of course, it is. So we'll get some more, and there's others that obviously can assist with that. The issue is that we have with Africa is data. With doing these kind of video calls, I mean, you can do video calls more easily than Zooms because that really sucks up a lot of data. But but even recording something will help.
Just on that point, with Africa and getting things moving, I've got a really good relationship with a brother in Ghana called Raphael. We've exchanged a lot.
Raphael. Yeah, I've spoken.
That's him. Yeah. And he's a very intelligent lad, and the work he's doing there is phenomenal because he's managed to secure funding. He's actually got donations coming in. He resonates totally with what GPMS is about, and he wanted GPMS to partner with him, but we were still at a very early stage of how that was going to work. But the guy is doing wonderful work. He's actually got a team together now already, and he's actually going around the schools in Ghana teaching them sanitation. And you've probably seen that, and he's doing some wonderful work there. And I'm sure we could use the strengths of Raphael and Wanderer's strengths and start bringing the strengths, because throughout Africa there's going to be different strengths, isn't there? So and then start to pull them all in together, because I see him as an important piece of this jigsaw, without a shadow of a doubt, based on what he's doing over there. It's just how we can utilize him moving forward. But it might be worth bringing him into a meeting at some point, like hosting like an Africa meeting with anybody that's got any strengths that can share to just inspire people.
I think what would be very powerful, actually, and this is just like coming to me now. Because obviously, like I say, the issue with a lot of them is the data, and obviously when they connect on the Zoom, which obviously is where we again record it, and you can see everyone on it, and that's powerful in itself, seeing a number of people on the call. The challenge is them all having data and not dropping out and being interference and stuff like that. But what we could do with the abilities that I've got and others have potentially to be able to edit things, and do reels and that sort of stuff, is that maybe there's a way that we can do like one-on-one calls with them and talk to them and have them share a little bit about what they're doing, and obviously their excitement for GPMS and etc. And actually just edit those together in a video, which I can obviously do probably quite easy. It won't be quite the same in terms of seeing all the people on the screen all in one go, but it will show the different individuals, a 30-second minute segment of one talking, and then another one coming in again, and the other, and then so forth. That could be quite powerful, because it's a tool that, again, once it's recorded, it's available for them to play when they've got data to some others that are there around. And of course, this is one of the things that I was sharing with the other one that I was speaking to recently, was that, again, in terms of obviously sharing it and speaking with people, again, the real highlight should be that whether someone's ready or not, it's about delivering the message and not wasting time or basically being frustrated with someone not seeing it immediately because there's so many other people to talk to. But to say, look, this is obviously seriously occurring and there's people all over the world doing it. I can show you information. I can show you the video content that supports what I'm saying. It's not just me as your mate down the road who runs this orphanage that is telling you this. There's all of the evidence to back this up. I need to sit down with you for a couple of hours and show you this information, show you the website, and then if you're ready, I'll take your agreement and we'll add it straight away, and maybe we can work together. If you're not ready, then that's fine, but I will want to talk to you again, but we won't continue talking the conversation now. What I will say is I'm going to be so busy speaking to other people, I might not get round to getting back to you. But the hesitation on not giving your agreement at this point immediately is slowing the process of what is inevitably going to happen. And so your contribution now, not delaying and not hesitating, will make all of the difference to your future and everyone else around you. So, but first we just sit down and we go through things. And a similar kind of conversation is what can be had. And I would encourage everyone to do the same, you know, with learning about this wherever you are in the world, right? With your own family, right? You know, a lot of people aren't necessarily used to being able to have deep conversations about various things that have been going on in the last few years because everyone's trying to ignore it and pretend it's not going on, or, you know, they're just not comfortable with it. But we've become distant and we want to go back to our roots and connect again with our families, with our communities, with those that we do know and we've been able to have rapport with. And just find a time to sit down with the family and just say, look, you know, I want to show you something. I want us to have a chat about it. Really, for it to really be worthwhile, we need to give it the time that it's worth, which when you see it, whether you believe it or not, this is potentially worth so much more than I can even describe to you. And so it is worthy of a couple of hours potentially. If you want to talk about it and you'll give that time, then we should. And we should maybe just have a little chat about other things with it as well, just that we haven't really talked about in the last few years. And then just take that time to sit down with people, play the little voice message that's a few minutes long, which is where I'll just sum it up in a few minutes. Look at the website, have a look at the counter, have a look at the old versus the new page. That's so key. Look at what we've been used to: taxes, debt, mortgages, loans, all of that stuff, you know, education, fees, war, military, all of this stuff. And in a world where you don't have to have that, really, if we choose it, you've got to make a true choice. Do you really want that? You know, do you think, or are you just having it because you think you have to, and it's always going to be that way? What if you make a choice not to have it? And what if everyone makes a choice not to have it? Could the world possibly be any worse than it is now? Choosing this world, could it really be worse? Of course it wouldn't. It couldn't be. And it's going to be so amazing, like, you know, it's the gift that just keeps on giving, because this is the light at the end of the tunnel, and each one of us, and back to what we chatted about just before we started recording this call, we are like the beacons of light. Those of us that have been awakening early, those that are watching this now that have basically been involved in sharing information and trying to sort of, you know, warn people about certain things, or just highlight certain deceptions that we've been, you know, told, lies that we've been told, or what have you, like from a government level, whatever it is. We are the beacons of light at this point for those people that are really getting what I could label as the COVID fatigue. Do you remember that phrase that was used by the media, COVID fatigue, setting in? Because, yeah, they were warning people about not being careful enough with, you know, protecting each other from this virus, right? Well, COVID fatigue, when I heard that expression, I saw that word and that phrase, or that phrasing in a different light. I saw that as COVID fatigue in terms of people being worn out by the duration that this, all of the problems that this was going to cause, you know, in terms of also any pushback that was going to occur, because they were going to draw things out, they were going to find constantly different other ways to keep on going in terms of their agenda and all the rest of it. And that would be a deliberate motion or plan for them to obviously keep on pushing forward with their agendas, knowing that they've got longevity because they've got their strategy, they're working very cleverly and smartly, albeit you could put, a lot of people put down a lot of what's gone on as just being incompetence. No, it's not. You know, they know what they're doing. They're very strategic with what they're doing. So the COVID fatigue is happening to a lot of people, and so many people right now are so at the edge of their wits now. They're depressed. They don't see light at the end of the tunnel. This is the light at the end of the tunnel for everyone, and we are the light actually that shines that path to that end of that tunnel, where they can see the bigger light there. You know, and so we have to basically bring this gift to people. You know, we have a right, we have a duty to do it. You know, it's like if you saw somebody about to step in front of a bus, and you could stop that person from stepping in front of the bus and getting run over. Do you not have a duty to stop that person from getting run over? Of course you do. And this is exactly the same. This is no different. You know, you might not sort of see it, but, you know, you're judging something and you're perceiving something based on your lack of sense of worth and self-belief in yourself, and us actually being able to have what we've all come here to have. We were all born free, every single one of us. When we were born and we were children, we were babies, we were kids, we were toddlers. We didn't know what tax was. We didn't know what debt was. That was a sense of freedom, right? Of course it was. So of course, then we obviously went to school and there was a lack of sense of freedom because it was like every single day and we may not have liked it. So we started to lose that sense of freedom there a little bit. But this is what we're returning back to all of the people, is that real sense of freedom, because you're not going to have that financial worry ever again when we bring this world in. You're not going to have to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week, not unless you want to, and you're doing a lot of that extra time as your passion, so it's not work anyway. But your contributions and the grandparents' contributions, right, for looking after their grandchildren, for example, are as valuable, if not more valuable, than watching a pro footballer kicking a piece of leather around a football pitch, you know, for entertainment. But yet they don't get rewarded at all, let alone millions of pounds, you know, for doing that duty. So this is where, again, like, people will start to value those contributions and see them in a different light when we bring this new world in. And that's why everyone's going to be valued for their contributions equally. And that's maintaining this utopia, which they'll see, you know, becoming around them constantly as we transform the planet. And so this is the amazing thing. So, yeah, so that's basically pretty much it. What came to mind, actually, and I wanted to just touch on this very quickly, when I had that conversation with that 20, we'll wrap this up quite soon because we're almost at the half past, we've been an hour and a half, is that when I was having that chat with that hairdresser, that barber,
yeah,
that young lad, I think it was then that it came to me. But I was wondering, because obviously in terms of my outlook of GPMS and how it came to me, or how I resonated with it immediately, I recall one of my earliest memories when I was about 4 or 5 years old. And actually it wasn't during that conversation, it was during another conversation I was having with someone else. But basically, I remember when I was 4 or 5 years old, and I was probably just having my imaginary kind of friend that I was playing with in my, you know, mind. And this is the great thing when we're kids, we just have this wild imagination. And I was just, you know, having some fun. And I imagined in this story that I was playing out, you know, with my imaginary friend, or just even with myself, which is obviously my other hemisphere of my brain, or my higher self, whatever you want to call it. That I was given some very wealthy individual. I had no sense of wealth at this point, but this wealthy individual decided to just come and give me a briefcase full of loads of money. I can't quantify what money level it was. I probably had, because I had no idea what a lot of money was. It may have been £5,000 or £500 or £1,000 or £1 million. I don't know. But it was just a gift that this guy was giving to me for no other reason, but just being very generous and very kind and wanting to give it to me. And this was a story that I was playing out in my imagination. And this is basically what we're doing for everyone. This is exactly what we're doing for everyone. And so it's quite phenomenal that I've had that recall, because it makes me see how, again, why I saw GPMS so quickly as I did, because it was like I've already played this game. I've already played this story out in my subconscious mind or my imagination from a young age. And always imagined, well, from that young age, that would, why wouldn't that happen, you know? So I didn't have any idea or concept of what I would spend the money on. It wasn't about that. It was about the generosity and the kindness and the compassion in that moment that I had that kind of experience. So yeah, that was pretty funny. That's pretty cool. So yeah. I mean, I've covered pretty much, I think, most of the things I wanted to chat about. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to sort of explain. I mean, you've already had things like that occur. Do you remember much to do with your imagination and playing when you were a kid and that sort of stuff?
I just remember as a kid hating school, absolutely hating it. And I've always had something inside me, not happy in settling in one place, always wanting to explore. And I've kind of had a lot of friends over the years that I've not spent a particularly long time with. I've never had like long-standing friends for years and years and years. I've had a few as I've got older, but when I was younger, I was just bouncing off different children, and just learning what I can, almost trying to understand myself and what I'm about and what my purpose is, and without realizing what the word purpose was back then. I had no concept of that being young, and I just hated the regimental system of school. I just absolutely hated it. But put me in a space where I could just be myself. I love that, and I love being around the other kids. Children. I'll rephrase that. That just wanted fun, just emanated positivity, and I just love that. And but all the way through my life, as you get older, you start to leave school. You've got the pressures of then trying to obviously find a career, and not having any real direction when I left school whatsoever, really. I didn't really know where I was heading. It was almost like I was tuning into my intuition to a certain degree, having an element of trust there without realizing what that meant back then. So the thought of where I'm at now compared to then, it does kind of make a lot of sense why I was very confused when I was younger, and not really kind of like some children were just like, right, I love doing this, and they just stuck at that for most of their life. I would just like a bit of a scattergun most of my life, really, just not happy settling in one spot. And then all of a sudden, when I started to come across the knowledge of GPMS, and then seeing Rick and then yourself, it was like I was always meant to arrive at this moment, connecting with GPMS and what GPMS was all about. It was almost like something inside me was saying, look, eventually you will find a place where your natural abilities will be used in the right way. And I've always felt I had a natural ability, but I've never found the place to fully. I thought sales was the environment for me to do it, but I hated the stress of sales. I hated the targets and the pressures and everything. And that used to, send me on a roller coaster constantly in my personal life. And getting out of sales was the biggest thing for me, and having my own business, getting out, meeting people. Then I started to realize who I was inside and what gifts I did have to offer in my personality, just showing love to people, being kind and just being supportive. And then realizing that was paving the way perfectly to the point that I'm at now, and where I can actually use my natural abilities in the best possible way I can, and just support people, show them love, and allow them to be their authentic selves by showing them that there is people that exist that are compassionate, kind, generous, supportive, and loving, and we can create a new world off the back of that. And I see a lot of children now growing up, and they're just incredibly intelligent. And there's a lot of children now around that they just already see the future so brightly. It's an incredible time to be alive, which they see the future way ahead of what I was seeing it back then. I felt like I'd got to go down so many dead ends before I actually found where I am in my 50s. So it's I think the children have got one hell of a future ahead of them. It's going to be so exciting. It's going to be incredibly exciting, and the doors are going to be wide open for them to go down any path they want to, and not have to feel like they're being forced or indoctrinated into anything. And that's just a wonderful thing to see evolving. And I'm talking to a lot of parents and I've said, well, what's your children going to be doing when they leave school? And so, well, you know what? We're letting them decide what they want to do, where they want to continue studying or go to university, or do they want to just go down a path that they want to do? And some have said, well, my son wants to just become a tree surgeon and not go to university. And I thought, well, that's wonderful. So he's actually listening to what makes him truly happy. you know, and then I hear others say, yeah, my son, he wants to play in the band, and that's what he loves, and that's what he's going to do. And I think that's wonderful. You know, I love hearing stories like that where they're literally following their, you know, intuition and their dreams rather than feeling like they're being forced. And all my life, I feel like I've had to go down, follow the path of the collective, whether I wanted to or not. I felt like that was the only way to survive. And to see the emergence of GPMS and realizing now that the endless possibilities that are approaching, yeah, it's fabulous, brother. It really is fabulous time to be and involved in this movement. It really is. And yeah, it's been a fantastic chat as always. And yeah, anything now regarding, like, certainly with Uganda. I mean, I'm constantly thinking about ways that I can help people in the UK because I'm based in the UK. But I'm trying to be a bit more cautious about how I actually introduce GPMS, and because everybody's situations over here is a lot more complicated based on the lifestyles, whereas with Uganda, they've all got the similar kind of struggles. So it's an easier conversation with everybody in Uganda, but in the UK, it's a bit more of a complex conversation based on everybody's beliefs over here.
A lot less ego. There's a lot less ego, of course.
Yeah.
We're dealing with people, you know, in that part of the world, in their situation. You know what, especially when you're contacted by an orphanage and you know that they're, of course, looking for and seeking assistance because they're desperate. And, you know, obviously, a lot of people know that in Uganda and Africa, of course, people are, you know, desperate, and there's lots of scammers out there as well, which actually is not really their fault because they can earn more money potentially seeking donations, which are kind of posed in the light of obviously looking after children, than they can actually getting a job, you know, elsewhere. You know, if they can get donations of $20 or, you know, from a few people that I speak to, which is not an easy thing because the people obviously are aware and don't have trust and stuff, you know, but still, that could be like a few, you know, 5 days work, you know, in the equivalent income that they generate from that, you know. So, but it's the environment and the way that we've been living in the system that creates that problem. So, but yeah, there's a lot less ego. So we're obviously working towards, obviously, again, what we're doing is we connect people, obviously finding the genuine causes to obviously work with us, collaborate with us, and also, you know, for anyone that resonates, to assist with them if you want to, then that's brilliant. And they're vetted, those ones that we would obviously sort of suggest that you might help. So again, that would be welcome by any of those that we're connected with. So yeah, definitely, I'm thinking of the same thing. And just to mention again, the authentic self is one of the benefits that we've experienced myself, the same as you, you know, having coming out of a corporate role and working in sales or whatever, going and working for myself and having a level of freedom that I didn't have when I was working for people employed, you know, and that allows you to then look at life and perceive things around you that you wouldn't normally perceive when you're in that institutionalized kind of environment of working and being employed and having that authority over you. You're your own boss, and you can have your own sort of choose your hours to a degree, and your life is more in a universal flow to a degree, you know, which is obviously not experienced when you're working, whether you like it or not, Monday to Friday, doing set hours and what have you. So yeah, this is again what people are returning back to and reflecting on now over the last few years. They are thinking, what do I really want? It's difficult for them to navigate though, because obviously it's uncertain whether they can travel that easily, what the cost of travel is going to be, all that sort of stuff in the current way. But of course, with GPMS, is completely removing that barrier. So that's why it is very exciting for those children and those youths that are kind of lost at the moment. It's also exciting to be able to bring this for the elderly, because elderly, they hear about GPMS and they would say, oh, it sounds again great, but I can't see it happening, and certainly not in my lifetime. But we've got the opportunity here to bring it very quickly, in a blink of an eye, within months it can be here. And so, well, yeah, really, for their sake, I mean, in the last few years have been horrendous for the older generations, and it's horrible
Really,
that last years are spent this way. And so we've got an opportunity to change that for so many of them. You know, if we just work together and collaborate and just do what's right, basically, with this. So, Yeah, it's beautiful. It's very difficult for, just to mention, the young people to be able to actually imagine and see things in the way that we see it, who were around and experiencing life before the internet was really out there. That's the thing. Like this guy who's 23 years old, you know, born after 2000. You know, they've only known the internet. It's always been here, and you know, mobile phones and devices and stuff was just the norm for them. So they don't appreciate what came before that, the 90s, the 80s. You know, before that, you know, like the freedoms that we had, the playing in the park and the experiencing of life that we had in those days, that's kind of been lost. But again, it will be revived. You know, it's going to be revived and beyond it, you know, what it was before, because there'll be no limitation to funding and all that sort of stuff. So amazing. So we'll round it up there. It's 5:35. Thank you so much for being here, brother, and pleasure to have you on. It's great to have the conversation actually so kind of intimate, in the sense of it just being mainly the two of us, because we've been able to sort of talk a little bit about certain things that we haven't done, and it's great to obviously again talk about what we're doing in Africa. And just to again mention for everyone watching this, this is a truly worldwide movement seated in 149 countries across all continents, and we've got rapidly approaching 100,000 agreements worldwide. You know, that's skimming the surface in terms of the world population, but we know that videos go viral and reach billions very rapidly within months. This is an opportunity that you have now. What you do with it is up to you when you decide to do it. But why not just, you know, grab the bull by the horns and just get on board, join us, and become a guardian if it resonates. And that's, you know, being an active sharer, not just you know, to a few people in your family or whatever, but join us on calls. And you know, we want to get this offline eventually when we've got, well, I say eventually, could be as soon as a month from now as things are going. So where we can actually meet and gather and we can promote. And of course, initiatives and all that sort of stuff that we're sharing on these calls that we do outside of this one and others that we do is something that we're collaborating with each other on to be able to move things forward more quickly, so we can bring it quickly. So thanks again for being here, brother. You have an amazing day.
Absolute pleasure.
We'll connect next week and see if we can line up a call with Wanderer, you know, and chat through what we were talking about, and also the others, and see what we can do with that.
Yeah, that'd be fabulous. Yeah. Yeah, I've got quite a lot actually. I'd like to, some other things that I'd like to just, just throw out there as well, which we can have a chat about when we catch up. So I'll give you a touch base in the week, and have a wonderful evening.
Yeah,
and
lovely, bro. Yeah, thanks so much, everyone.
Love, light, and gratitude. Love, light, and gratitude. Have an amazing week, and I'll speak to you soon. Take it easy. Peace. Blessing.